In today's video at Fixed, we are going to be replacing the back glass on an iPhone XR. As you can see, the customer severely broke the back. Here's what the new glass will look like. We're also going to be replacing the rear camera lens, and we're going to make this red. Customers wanting it to be custom with a red frame. It'll look great. Let's get started. So the first thing we're going to do is take the screen off. We'll remove the bottom two screws and pry up the sides and top and bottom and fold it out to the side like a book. Then we'll remove the bracket that is holding down the display cables, and we'll also remove the bracket that's covering the connectors, including the battery connector, which we'll disconnect before we disconnect any of the other connectors. And we'll disconnect the display and remove the other bracket up top that's holding down the proximity sensor assembly connector, keeping the screws in order because each screw is different. Now we'll remove the SIM card tray and work at disconnecting all the connectors to help us remove the motherboard. We'll take out the screws that are holding down the SIM card tray slot. This is the first iPhone with the removable SIM card tray. It's quite nice to be able to fix that or replace that if it needs to be replaced instead of soldering a new one onto the motherboard. Then we'll be able to remove the motherboard from the inside of the frame. We'll start on the charge port by removing the bracket and all the screws that are holding it down, and carefully work out each piece of the charge port area, including the loudspeaker and the Taptic engine at the bottom. Making sure to keep all of the screws in order, of course, because they're always different and each one goes in its own place. Next thing we'll do is remove the battery by pulling on the adhesive strands. There's 4 of them that hold down the battery, 2 at the bottom and 2 at the top. Then the battery pops out nice and easy. I'll speed through the rest of this teardown. We'll need to take the entire phone apart to do the process that we're going to do. We'll remove all of the components. I do this using a little bit of alcohol to help loosen the adhesive under the flex cables. Being sure to keep this organized in a way that will be easy to put back, remembering where each screw and bracket and flex cable goes. We'll remove the external charging unit by carefully getting under it there with my pry tool. And we'll remove all the side brackets, the brackets for the volume buttons and the mute button there. We'll work that around and remove the flash and microphone for the rear camera, as well as the power button there on the side. And remove the brackets on the other side as well, keeping everything in order. Once we've removed all of the internals, we can then align it on our heat plate, making sure that it's going to have a nice fit, that there's nothing in the way, double checking that there's nothing that's going to melt, because the tool that we're about to use is super hot. And there's the rear camera. It got smashed up pretty bad. We'll have to replace that as well. Clean up our area. We'll be using this heat plate. In the center there's a cylinder that will push up through the back glass and help us start the removal process. I'm going to switch out the frame from the iPhone X frame that I had on there to the XR heat plate frame. I've got this Machine set at 250 degrees Celsius, so it's super hot. We'll also need to remove the rear camera, so I have this little jig I made with a wood and a drilled hole. Take my hammer, give it a whack, and that'll pop out the frame for the rear lens. Next, I'll take the frame and push down on it. And as we push, let it warm up and push down, you'll see that the cylinder will pop through, pushing the glass up. Now, because of how cracked this glass is, I'm definitely going to use glasses. And also, this will be a little bit more complicated, seeing as there's a lot of shards versus the normal where there's only a couple dozen pieces of glass that you have to remove. Here there's hundreds of pieces of glass that are going to have to be removed. So this is going to take some patience and some time to do. I'll work my way around the glass, removing any glass that's ready to go, and every once in a while I'm going to clear it off, just so I have a easier workplace to put the glass and make sure I have removed all the glass that I need to remove. This did take quite some time, and it was simply due to the sheer number of shards of glass. But I wanted to do this video because it looked like one that was fun, one that would take a bit of time, and would be a challenge. They're not so challenging when it's only one or two cracks, where the glass basically just comes off in one solid piece, nice and easily. This one's much more complicated. I'll go around the edge, cleaning up the edge as best as I can. We do want the new glass to have a nice flush fit around all the edges. Again, I'll take it off and shake it off so that we can have a fresh surface to work on, and we'll clean off our heat plate there. And again, we'll grab our plexiglass frame to help us hold on to it without burning ourselves. And again, start scraping at all of the little shards of glass and any adhesive and high spots that are going to impede the glass from sitting flush to the frame when we get to that stage. Now, I found the corners on the XR, they're much more, when they're shattered like this, it's much harder to clean than on the X or XS or XS Max, because it doesn't have this thick plastic frame it goes around for the adhesive to adhere to, and the adhesive tends to stick better to the plastic than it does to the metal. It almost fuses itself to it, where on the X and the XS it doesn't do that. You can simply pry it away because there's not much of a frame around the border for the glass to hold on to. Now that we're done with the heat plate, we'll go ahead and move that out of the way and clean up our workstation. And then one last time I'm going to go around the border, making sure that there are no extra pieces of little glass or any adhesive that's in the way, so that we can seal the new glass on it and have a nice clean edge to work with, as well as a flat back plate for the adhesive to adhere the glass to. Now here's the rear camera lens. It's got the red frame. The lens sits inside of there, and there's a rubber gasket that goes in between them and holds them both together. We'll peel off the protector to the back of that back glass, and then we're going to take some adhesive. This is the E8000 that I like to use. It's clear, and it has a fine tip that allows me to pipe the adhesive exactly where I want it. It's very strong. It has a lot of different uses, but I find that it works really well for adhering the glass to the frame. We'll go ahead and go around the frame in just a random pattern, basically following what Apple has done with their back glass, just adhering it everywhere. If it works for them, it'll work for me. We'll cap the adhesive and install the new back glass, centering it and making sure it sits flush on all corners. Then we'll take some clamps and we'll go ahead and go around and clamp down the glass down to the frame. I like to especially clamp around the where the external charging unit is going to go, to make sure it has a flush fit, so that when we install that back on the glass, we won't have any issues there. Do you think I've used enough clamps? I'm not sure. Next, I'm going to take the adhesive and we're going to work our way around where the lens will sit, giving it a nice even coat there. We'll take the lens and we'll stick it down in there, making sure that it sits flush inside that hole in the glass, and then we'll clamp it down and make sure it does dry there. Here's the remnants of the glass, and there it is, all clamping up and curing. We'll remove all the clamps, clean up the back, and clean up any adhesive that had spilled out around the lens or around the frame, and then reassemble it. I'll skip that part in this video.